in verse 11 of Ecclesiastes, he says, I have observed something else under the sun. He says, I got a revelation. I observed something else. God showed me something. I was thinking one thing, and God showed me something. I was thinking things had to work out a certain way if you did a certain thing, but God showed me something, and the revelation that it flies in the face of rationale. And see, God does not have to function inside the boxes that we create. God does not have to function inside the world that we create. God does things on his own time in his own way. Why? Because he's God. And he says, I've observed something else under the sun. He said, the first thing I noticed is that the fastest runner does not always win the race. I remember we used to have, back when I was coming up, and some of you all that are in your 50s and maybe 60s, we used to have our own little Olympics, and it was around MLK Day, and we would go out to the track at Lincoln Middle School on MLK Day, and we have our own Olympics. And so when I was coming up, the fastest fellow on our side of town, he was a guy named Roger. What was Roger's last name? Roger. Huh? Campbell, that was his name, Roger Campbell. I know we had some other fast ones, but Roger was the fastest one. And I ran track. He was a couple years older than me. Then he ran track. I'd never beat Roger before. I never even considered it because I knew I couldn't beat Roger racing. And we had a lot of other fast fellas, but he was the fastest one. But I can remember that when we were out at Lincoln and see, this is the hood Olympics. This ain't the regular folk. This ain't the one you see at University of Florida. This is the hood Olympics. We out there, we having a good time, but we took it serious. All us that ran for our different schools, we got our spikes on, we stretching, we ready to roll, and I'm in the race with Roger Campbell, and so this is the hood Olympics. I would love to win the hood Olympics. He can have the other Olympics, he can have districts, he can have regionals, but boy, I would love to be able to win this race. And so even in my mind, there was no rationale that I would be able to beat Roger. I never beat him before, and I can remember when they said go, and we started running. We run the 220. I think they call it 200 now, but we were running the 220-yard dash, and we were running, and we got around that corner. When I got around that corner, I realized that, Lord have mercy, I'm in front of everybody, and so I'm running. I'm thinking somebody gonna run me down, but now I'm running for life now, because when you get ran down in the hood Olympics, you hear this noise. Oh, you hear this noise, and that lets you know that you don't even know what's coming, but you know that somebody about to run you down. And I wasn't hearing that yet, and we were running, and I got across the finish line, and I was in first place. I was expecting maybe a second, maybe a third, but you know what? The race does not always go to the fastest runner. I got the trophy, I got the first place ribbon, but I know I wasn't the fastest, but I was the fastest one right then. The race is not always given to the fastest runner. And then he said something else I learned, because you would think that the race is always going to be won by the fastest runner. He says it don't always work that way. And he says, I learned something else, that the strongest warrior doesn't always win the battle. Just because you're the strongest don't mean you can win the battle. I told y'all my story about Willie. Any of y'all related to Willie Addison? Any of y'all related to Willie Addison? You related to Willie Addison? Okay, but a guy named Willie Addison I told you about, a little skinny fella. We call him Dirty Red. Willie really couldn't beat nobody, but you ain't want to fight him because he was going to always fight. He was going to fight till he won. And he wasn't the strongest, but ain't nobody want to fight Willie, because you know you're going to have to fight him anywhere, everywhere, because he's not going to give up. And so you know, man, you got it, man. You got it. Go on, you got it. He wasn't the strongest, but he won. I don't know about everybody else, but he won the fights with me, because I was just tired. I ain't want to fight him. You got to fight him at Citizen Field. You got to fight him everywhere, because he's not going to give up until he feels like he won. The race is not always, the battle is not always going to go to the strong. He said one other thing I realized, that the wisest one, the one with the most education, ain't always the one that making all the money. He says, it tripped me out. I figured you go and you get all this education, you get all these degrees, and it guarantees that you're going to make more money than anybody. But he says, it tripped me out. I got a revelation that it don't always work out that way. And so this word is for somebody. You might not be the fastest. You might not be the strongest. You might not be the most educated. You might not have been the valedictorian. You might not have been the salutatorian. You might not have been the one that was picked the biggest chance to be most likely to succeed. That might not have been you. But can I tell you that the race can still be yours, that the battle can still be yours, that the victory can still be yours. Never count yourself out.